This is The Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to The Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Luann Zaraga-Walters. So, what do you do for generating income for your nonprofit? And how would you like some ideas or some resources to bump up that funding a little bit? Well, today is your show, and I bet that is applicable to every single nonprofit across the United States. Our guest today is the author of 7 nonprofit income streams. Her name is Karen Eber-Davis, and she is the owner of Karen Eber-Davis Consulting. Thank you for coming on our show.
Luann.
Very nice to have you on, Karen. You know, your information and this book is something that can broaden the mindset for nonprofits. And now, I just want to brag on Karen a little bit. I've known her through the Nonprofit Consultants Connection here in Tampa Bay. But I didn't know everything that you'd done until I started to read. You know, when you read somebody's bio, you learn a lot about them. So thank you for sharing that. But as the president of her consulting firm, you've worked with over 200 nonprofits. That's correct. And really working with them to generate funding that is so essential for the missions that we do. But here are some of the successful, incredible organizations and the funds that you've helped them raise. The Ringling College of Art and Design, over $200,000 raised. That's not a drop in the bucket. The Suncoast Workforce Development Board, over $600,000. Habitat for Humanity affiliates, over $2 million. Wow. And Meals on Wheels Plus, over $2 million. So the reason I say this is not necessarily to brag on her, although that's fun to do too. But it's because really your expertise is shown through the success that you've already had. And so we're grateful to have you on the show because I think this book is something, again, it's the 7 nonprofit income streams that's really going to be beneficial for some nonprofits. So let me learn a little bit more about you. I've bragged on you a little bit, but how did you come to be a nonprofit consultant?
I started off in college wanting to help people who were excellent be more excellent.
Wow, that's a cool thing to say.
I was a psychology major, and there wasn't really a track at that point in time. So I have been on a multiple-year adventure, we won't say how many years, of finding ways to help people do that. And have, in the last 20 years, been involved consulting, mostly with nonprofits, because there I find people who have their heart about changing lives and doing really important things. And much of this work has ended up about income.
Well, yes, because without the income, they can't complete their missions. And you know, and I've said this several times that, and everybody knows it who's in the nonprofit world. There's this hamster wheel. You know, it's basically a year-round process, and every year it's like, oh, I got to start over again. I've got to do this whole process again. We have to ask the same donors. You know, luckily, if you're on a pledge system, then you may have some who are connected to you for 3 to 5 years or more. But what I like about what you've written in the 7 income streams is that I think that people aren't aware of what they have available, and that's where your teaching, your expertise come into. But what is nonprofit income? Let's just kind of go with that round. What does that look like? Because I think people have a certain aspect of it, but you talk about it in a different way.
Okay, I do. Nonprofit income is like any income. In nonprofits, you have even broader ways to obtain it than in a for-profit. A for-profit sells a good or services. Nonprofits can also do that.
Yes.
Government does taxes. Nonprofits can't do that.
Yeah.
So nonprofits are like a business, but instead of just earning money through products and sales, they can also receive donated funds. They can receive foundation money. They can receive corporate philanthropic support. They can partner with a corporation to receive not only maybe some of their marketing dollars, but also some of their philanthropic support. So nonprofits, in a lot of ways, it's an advantage. There's more opportunities rather than less.
See, that's a great way to think about it, because I think that it's the flip side of that coin that most nonprofits think of, or a lot that I've worked with too, is that, oh, woe is us, we're not a corporation, so we don't have the advantages that corporations do. But what you just said is eye-opening, ear-opening. You know, you have more opportunities, you have more advantages for getting dollars, because you're talking about from sources that corporations can't get money.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's exciting about that is, although there are, according to the book and how I look at it, not only the different sources, which there are 7, those are based on where they're coming from and why someone is doing that. Why would someone give you money? Why would someone pay you for something? And looking at it that way allows you to say, okay, how do we find the people who want our product or service, or if that service is creating value through philanthropic work, that's another thing you're selling. How do we find the people and then get to them and have that conversation about, I can help you have what you need?
So I'm thinking when you said that, I'm thinking of like nonprofit ABC. The way they might be thinking of it is, here's how we raise money. We go out and we talk to our friends and our board members and their friends and people who are connected to them, and we get as many of them as we can to come to our nonprofit event, and we raise money, and that's how we make money.
Okay, that's an excellent way. It actually, when you talk about friends and board members, you're talking about something called individual donations. But
I think that's what the majority of it's seen as.
Only as one. That's
right.
one of the streams. And actually, if we do my pie.
Yes, I love this pie chart that you put together.
This, Luann, is cash income. This is representation of cash income that nonprofits receive. There's a missing source here. I'll tell you that right away, too. There's 7 sources.
There we go. Can you see that pie? Okay.
The missing source is in kind, and we'll talk about that separately.
Okay, but you're talking about specifically money.
I'm talking about money. This is cash because while in kind fits wonderful if it's the right in kind, most people need to pay the power company. Right.
Exactly.
One's cash. They just don't care if you want to bring them a nice barrel of something. Okay, so individual donations,
yes.
One of the sources is actually this.
The happy yellow one, because we're always happy when we have a new donor.
Of all nonprofit income.
Okay, 25%. See, this is what I'm saying. I think that many models are set up to be almost 100%.
And where the confusion is when you look at donated money, the biggest slice is this. It's individuals.
Okay.
So that's, we're trained to do that because if you're looking for donations, you should be looking to individuals. Okay,
that's interesting.
But all the income, it's only one slice.
I love your pie.
We can't eat it.
No, we can't. But now this is, okay, I was going to ask you if there were any surprises in these 7 income streams, and I'll tell you right off the bat. This is a surprise to me because I would think that individual donations would be bigger than 25%, just based on the amount of energy that's exerted within a nonprofit to get that money. You know, I mean, we've, Terry Axelrod, you know, creating the Benevon model, really making that popular, and that emphasis is really the individual donation aspect.
And that's wonderful. That's probably the hardest income to get. To get it consistently, you have to build this community of people who not only love you and care about you, they're willing to reach into their cash and give you cash that they could use for their own benefit, that they could use for their families.
Well, so, tell me about, okay, so if this is 25%.
Let's talk about this one.
I wanted to say, what's the blue one? Because I thought that would be the donors, really,
no,
the individuals.
Actually, if you think about how a business sells products or services, back to that conversation we had a minute ago, that nonprofits also sell products and services, this is mission-earned revenue. This is revenue that nonprofits earn by selling goods and services
Social
that have
enterprise.
Mission. Social enterprise is a kind of it.
I love this. We're really developing more and more shows on the Philanthropy Show around social enterprise. So why is it that big?
Think about tuitions. Think about nonprofit hospitals. Think about theaters. Think about housing for people with special needs.
Got it.
Think about Habitat.
Now,
another one.
Does everybody have something to sell? Whether it's a service or a product?
Some groups philosophically believe they can't sell to their current customers.
Philosophically, but that's their own personal philosophy. Okay.
In one situation, a group I was working with said, we, you know, as a charter thing, we don't sell. And I said, great, don't sell to customers, but is there some other value you have? And the value was that they were working with patients who had serious health problems, but those patients had great feedback for doctors. And so they had the ability to say to the specialty field in the medical that was extremely lucrative, that there's lots of money there, we can get you first-class quality information from patients and feedback. And that was a product that they had the potential to sell.
But the hospital then became the customer.
Right.
But the client is the patient.
But the mission was to help everyone's health improve.
Got it.
Therefore, it was still mission earned revenue.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah.
And I want to show you another little slice, because this together, if we do our pie here.
That's very pretty, Karen.
Thank you.
You picked really good colors.
It was like, okay, what spray paint to work. But the pie here, you see, is just over half of all nonprofit income. This is a really interesting slice. This is other earned income.
Which would be?
Products and services not related to mission.
Okay.
Significant portion of the nonprofit income.
Give me an example of what that might look like.
You have a wonderful parking lot that you can rent out because it's
brilliant,
close to the football game.
There are several churches that I know of locally that do that.
You have endowment money.
Okay.
So the endowment money coming into you
is earned from the interest.
The interest earned on it. The individual the endowment money is individual donation.
But the interest is other earned income.
Right, because it's something you're giving them, that your resource.
Fascinating.
And they're doing that. So
I love the parking lot example. I mean, if we could really step out of the box and think about ways in which, well, there are ways too. There organizations that have large multi-room offices, and they might rent out an office or a space, or maybe they rent out their conference room to other organizations in the building or something like that. So you're thinking out of the box and saying, what is it that we have as an asset that we can make money on?
You might have a staff member who only is really needed some of the year, and his or her skills are excellent and can be used somewhere else, and you want to keep them on board.
That feels a little weird, though. It's like you're renting out your staff member. Well, they are a commodity, I suppose. I had thought of that.
Yeah. But that's something, and when you get into this source, you want to have a conversation with your CPA, because there are some tax consequences.
And your staff member before you.
Certainly. And how, if you do sell out your parking lot and your board members can't come in, that's a problem.
Right.
So there's none of this is like, oh, it's money laying on the ground, and we just go pick it up. But this is thoughtful, creative. Do we have an asset that we could use and turn it in to resources to do our mission?
And being creative about that process. Before we get to the next pieces of the pie, we're going to take our first break, but we're going to come right back. And I love this, because this is really the way that you can expand your mind to seeing all of the value that you have to get it. So we're going to come right back with Karen Eber-Davis and find out more about the 7 nonprofit income streams. I want to say 7 sources of revenue. The 7 nonprofit income streams right after this break. We'll be right back.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
I'm Samantha Abraham, CEO of My Paper Pusher, with your financial tip of the week. What is the difference between the cash and accrual methods of accounting? In simple terms, the main difference is when and how you record your revenue, expenses, assets, and liabilities. The cash method of accounting records transactions based on when the cash is received or when the cash is paid out, such as when a deposit is made or when a check is written. Cash method is focused more on cash flows and is often easier to understand. The accrual method of accounting records transactions based on when the income is actually earned and when the expense is actually incurred, regardless of any flow of cash. For example, if you charge program fees for services rendered in the month of March, but don't receive payment until May, the revenue is still recognized in March. Certain laws and regulations may require an organization to use accrual accounting. Generally accepted accounting principles also require using accrual accounting. While cash accounting may be easier to understand, accrual accounting is often more thorough and accurate, which is why it is often recommended for nonprofit organizations. I'm Samantha Abraham with My Paper Pusher, where you can consider it done.
The Firehouse Cultural Center is a multicultural arts facility for all ages and diversities serving South Hillsborough County. It presents engaging programming in the arts, humanities, and education. Programs range from summer arts camp, classes, artists' residencies, film, to live music, comedy, and theater performances. Visit www.firehouseculturalcenter.org for more information.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. Our guest today, Karen Eber-Davis of Karen Eber-Davis Consulting. She's a fantastic role model, having had multiple small, medium, large nonprofits that you've worked with.
All of the above.
All of the above, over 200 in the area, and really helping them recognize and utilize all the income streams. So let's do a quick review. So 25% are your individual donations.
Correct.
Right? This is our donors and whatnot. How much did you say this was?
It's like
It's like
yes, almost half.
48. We'll say 48% because it looks like it's just shy of 50.
Rest
So
of that
maybe more
pie,
like
yeah.
35%, something like that. This is your social enterprise.
Or
Your
mission, I call it mission earned revenue because
mission earned
yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we just did the pink one, which was other earned income.
That has nothing to do with mission. It's earned income, nothing to do with mission.
Okay, other earned income. And I love the creativity of this one. This was your parking lots or your staff members that you could rent out. Hey, go help ABC Corp. So let's go through. We have is that right? We have 3 remaining pieces?
We do.
Okay. So it's interesting. We have another, I don't know which one I want to ask for first. I think we should
What's
go
the big
let's
one?
let's go for the big one.
Okay, because what is important to note with the big one is if you take these 3 together,
That's a substantial amount.
yeah, this is most of the nonprofit income.
Yeah.
And as I work with nonprofits, I find most of them are funded that way.
Okay.
You know, sometimes this is bigger, a little, but that's where the majority of this income is. We'll talk about these later.
Okay.
This, perhaps not surprising to many
Uh-huh.
of your people who are listening to this, is government money.
Okay.
All sources, small, local, your local government. It's your Swift MUDs in Florida that provides some grants to help nonprofits do
Whether
environmental
that's county,
stuff.
state,
Federal,
Okay.
government money. Whether it's a grant that you get from the government
You know,
or a fee for service.
but now this is interesting because this is a healthy pie, right?
This is the pie that is.
Okay. This is
It's not
the
necessarily-
pie that is. I love that.
It's not, I'm not recommending this.
Because others may have this be the red section because they get a
Absolutely.
lot of government funding and vice versa.
There is no one size fits all.
Okay.
There's what's really good for your organization based on your history, based on the people who are part of your organization.
How do you get a snapshot of this then? Is this just a matter of looking at what you have coming in and then putting that label into it and saying,
For a nonprofit, an
Right.
individual nonprofit,
Right.
I would look at my income streams and say, where did I get this? And who is, the phrase being, who is the piper I need to pay to get this? Who is the relationship I formed?
Right,
And,
right.
and what is that relationship like?
Okay.
So the relationship to get government money means, in some cases, you fill out a lot of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
You put the application in. You meet with the officials. They come review you. You get the government
It's a
money.
very long process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Versus an individual donor.
Right.
We talked about.
Relationship
It's
building.
relationship. I'm your friend. I'm a thought. Would you please support me, Luann? Am I next to thought? It's also, you have known this organization for years. You've been a volunteer here. Would you give us some money? So it's all those kinds of things. Very different process than asking the government for money.
Absolutely.
And that's
this is
how
far
I
more
divide it.
personal.
Absolutely.
And this can take up more time because this might be a grant process.
And that could be a huge hit at once.
Right.
So
Okay.
you might get $100,000 or $1 million
Okay.
in federal funding. And you may get $20 from Karen.
Right.
Versus
Right.
you might have to get a lot of carrots.
Right.
Now, this has the advantage, as well as this, which is the mission earned revenue, of helping people in your community. You must go to your community and sell them products or services or why they should donate to you. So both of these, and a lot of these, with the exception of government, you have to create a community. So I argue that there's 3 bottom lines.
Okay.
It's the mission,
Right.
it's the money,
Uh-huh.
and it's a community because you're chartered as a 501c3 to serve that community.
Well, and those also speak to getting people to advocate for you. So they become more invested and more involved, not just through their money, but through the learning process.
Absolutely.
About who you are and what you do. Whereas, again, this is paperwork. This other revenue, the pink one, if you guys can see our little pink one, is, renting your parking lot. Somebody may have no clue even what your organization
They
is
may
about.
not care. They
Yeah.
want the parking
Right,
space.
that's
yeah.
completely different. Okay, so let's move into these two areas, the black and the orange that you have. They look almost the same, but they're not quite.
They're
One
very
is-
close. Actually, if I cut them correctly, the orange is a hair bigger. This is a surprise, and I did it orange intentionally.
Okay.
It's grants and foundation.
Really?
Yes.
That's 98% in many organizations of the time commitment.
And how can we get funded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And the thought process behind where's the money coming from, like you just said, how can we get funded?
Right.
But it's how much?
It's less than 10%.
Less than 10%. That's a lesson. I mean, I think that's a lesson. Wow. So here's the potential. Well, and this like you said, this is what is. So this is a snapshot of putting a myriad of nonprofits, thousands, hundreds of thousands of nonprofits together, and then looking at where the income streams come in.
Right. There's 1.5 million U.S. nonprofits.
Okay.
So we're looking at a condensed pie.
Right.
Of billions of dollars.
But that's fascinating.
So the huge amount of interest.
The reality
in this.
of what. Yeah.
Now, I love grants and foundations because it's the venture capital of the nonprofit world. It's where we go to say, I have this great idea, can we try it?
Right.
It's often where people go for a piece of equipment that no one else will fund.
Right.
So I adore them.
And like you said,
but
venture
they're
capital,
limited.
it's interesting because a lot of times sometimes they can be big angel investors, or they could be small pops of, like you're talking about equipment. I need $2,500 for this, or I need $5,000 for that. And so that falls within that pie.
If you look at this, a metaphor might help, as you have to go get gas in your nonprofit vehicle, which is a mission.
Okay.
You have this choice of things that might be fuel for you.
Right.
If you think that this is going to get you very far,
Right.
you probably need to rethink it. And if not this, at least these big three
See,
ones.
this is a big argument to me for really looking at your social enterprise, your earned income. What do you call it?
I call it mission earned revenue.
Mission earned revenue possibility. That's food for thought on that. And what is this black piece then?
This black piece is, because they wouldn't give you money if they weren't in the black, is corporations. And working with businesses.
That doesn't surprise me, which is interesting. Isn't that funny? This one did, but that one didn't. I would think if you're looking at corporations versus other grants from foundations or whatnot, that would be smaller than this.
That is a little bit bigger.
I mean, I'm not surprised that
correctly,
it's small because it's, you're fighting, I mean, you're competing, not fighting, you're competing with a lot of other organizations for a corporation's dollar. But wow.
This is actually very interesting, though, as the economy improves. There is a growing movement away from just sponsorships
Yes.
into cause marketing.
Yes.
And that is a combination of involving marketing dollars as well as sometimes the philanthropic dollars.
And it's a cultural shift. We had a show on with an example of corporate nonprofit partnerships, and Wheels of Success is a local nonprofit, and they partner with GTE Financial. And if you missed that show, go back and look for it. It's called Out of the Box Corporate Nonprofit Partnerships on the Past Shows tab. But GTE has an internal culture of wanting their employees to either volunteer or use their departments in some capacity for good, and they reach out and call nonprofits, where it's usually the opposite, right? Nonprofits calling you. Interesting. So there are 6 pieces here, and your book is 7 nonprofit streams.
There's a piece we didn't do. You're correct.
Okay.
And that is in kind. And I count that because it's very large. We don't know what it is exactly. We know that all our board members volunteer. That's
Absolutely.
a piece of it. We know people bring in a ream of paper because they saw buy one, get one
Right.
at the office store.
Right.
And so we know some of the numbers we have. We know volunteers. Some of the things we record, but there's no good source of how much that is. But it's really important for nonprofits to consider in kind. I worked with one group last year. We identified $70,000 worth of things they were using cold hard cash for.
Wow.
That had the potential to be in kind instead. And so in kind's tricky because you don't want to just get stuff. In kind done well is that you're asking the community or contacting the community and saying,
Absolutely.
would you give us this?
It's a barter.
It's barter.
Yeah,
Exactly what you
here's
need.
our service, here's your service, how can we make this mutually beneficial? our skills and talents lie in this area, and we can complement you and get done what you need to get done. And you can't have everything, as you mentioned earlier, in kind, because if you do, you still have to pay the bills.
But you might be able to have an in-kind volunteer help at critical areas when you're having an event or the front desk, whereas the power company won't take that. But many times you can find ways to resource.
And I think that there are some foundations who are actually going that route, too. I think of one, I'm sure you're familiar with Social Venture Partners, which Social Venture Partners has, as an example of that, and they're international as well, but they not only do they give a grant, but then their board, for whatever that community is, gives their skill set and their time to helping the nonprofit, that whatever it is that their focus needed to be. So really, how do you, how do you estimate that value unless you had to go bid on it, unless you had to say, I need to hire somebody for that. But it's good to see what you're getting so that you actually have a bigger appreciation for all the value that's coming in, don't you think?
Absolutely. Oh, sure, because if you don't have some of that, then you don't, if that something goes away, you didn't budget for it, and then you don't thank people properly, and you don't remember that this is that they're giving you something. Back to my thinking on the book, is people come to a nonprofit with their resources, money or in kind, because they're doing an exchange. And if you're not honoring that piece of it, then it's not going to stay. You're going to lose it.
So do you dive deep into this book, and thank you for giving me a copy of this because I'm going to enjoy reading it, but you dive deeper into each of these areas and how nonprofits can build towards increasing, how they can examine, how they can grow.
Pick which ones fit them.
This is a good tutorial. You could do it with your staff.
Or your board, because sometimes boards don't quite understand. They're thinking, oh, we need to get a grant for that.
This would be a really cool conference, a board retreat. Have everybody read it and then do an analysis. Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, if you're in the Tampa Bay area, you need to check out Karen Eber-Davis. And what is your website, Karen?
www.kedconsult.com.
kedconsult.com. So when we come back, I want you to answer a couple of overall questions for us about earned income and nonprofits, and then we'll also take part in Truth or Care, which is our kind of our flagship or our trademark segment with the Philanthropy Show. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Now a word from our studio sponsor.
Hi, I'm Jen Dodd, the Education Manager here at the Nonprofit Leadership Center, and I want to offer nonprofits a quick social media tip. When nonprofit social media pros ask me for ideas on content, I always recommend finding a Cause Awareness Day calendar online and using that as a jumping off point. You've seen all of the day of posts on Facebook and Twitter, right? These days are a great opportunity for nonprofits to join a large online conversation to increase awareness and engage both old and new friends. Use the Cause Awareness Day calendar to find topics that are relevant to your brand. For instance, the NLC is focused on education, training, and professional development for nonprofits, so I'd look for hashtags that fit into our mission. I wouldn't, for example, chime in on World Museum Day, but I know that on International Volunteer Day, the NLC can make a number of truly meaningful contributions to that conversation by incorporating hashtag International Volunteer Day into posts about our Volunteer Management Certificate program, or even a post about showing appreciation for the volunteers who donate their time and talent to the NLC throughout the year. Don't be afraid to have a little fun with it too. It is called social media after all. For example, I might post photos of each team member's favorite animal on hashtag World Animal Day, or our memories of the teachers who most influenced our lives on hashtag World Teacher Day. Use your social media cause awareness days to give new and old friends a meaningful glimpse into your organization so that they'll want to engage and join with you in carrying out your mission here in Tampa Bay. If you need more help with social media, take a peek at our own Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter feeds where we point out examples of nonprofit social media best practices. And don't forget to check our training calendar for upcoming social media classes here at the NLC, where we educate, empower, and connect nonprofits.
The Philanthropy Show is on demand every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at both thephilanthropyshow.com and YouTube/WatchMVVP TV.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show, talking about these 7 streams of income for nonprofits. And so we've gone through what they are, and my question to you would be, you know, are there better choices for different types of nonprofits to make? And how do you define that? How would a board, how would a CEO look at that process?
That's a strategic decision. It's an important one. There's no quick answer. Big picture, I would look at what I already had, because you don't want to lose those. You want to make sure you secure any income you have. And then you need to look at where you have skills. And in some cases, let's pick on individual donations, you have never had a donor. It's a tough haul and a multiple-year haul to get a list of donors who might give you a little bit of money. It might be that you say, oh, I have someone on staff who has sold a service just like this. And there's a way that you could start entering into the mission earned revenue. So it's, what do you have? Who do you have on board? And then, do we need to buy or purchase somebody in the market, hire someone to help us do some of these things? It's important to pick out what sources you want to do and then get really, really good at them.
And get focused.
Get focused. I think doing all 7 is
I was going to say.
If money is easy and you say, oh, look, I can write a grant. It's 1 page. It'll take me half day or even half an hour, and it's a $3,000 grant. That's a good return on investment. I would say go for it. If you're really looking for long-term income where you're going to have customers come back over and over again, that's something you might want to focus on for years. It may take a while to grow it, but you need to focus on that and not say, we're going to go out to mission, or, no, we changed our mind, let's do individual donations. You really need to say what really is going to be us. Is it really back to a strategy kind of material when you do it with retreat or what? And
so, and nonprofits look differently. Like you said earlier, some nonprofits have products, some have services, some have both. So really it's looking at going back to your income streams, labeling them, defining what they are, seeing how much of your budget they contribute to, and then what do you have that you can grow? Like you were talking about, for example, this one, the pink one, the other earned income. I love this one. I love it because you're looking at things like my parking lot, or some people are like, we don't have a parking lot. We actually have to rent parking, or your office facilities or something like that. So I guess where I'm trying to go is the first step is in trying to figure out what you already have.
Yes.
What about if you're a new CEO to a nonprofit and you're just coming in and you're trying to bump it up?
Good question. And this is true not only for a new CEO, it's a really excellent idea is to find people who are in your genre. You're doing childcare, you're doing whatever. Don't just look in your local area. Don't ask your best friend. They may be wonderful. Do a much broader search. Who is the best in the field? Who is excellent in the field? How do they earn their money? That's all available on 990s. And most nonprofits, if you do the homework, check their website, read their 990, and then call them and say, I'm really curious, how did you develop this mission earned revenue stream? Or how did you get into individual donations? You used to be all government. What was the process? They will share because this is a sharing community. And copy, adapt from the best. And I really, a lot of my work I'm doing is I'm saying who's out there, who's doing it, what would really work.
Look at their best practices
and
see what's
intrinsically fits us.
In
some ways, I'll tell you one of the stories in the book real quickly. Bach Towers Gardens had a mansion. And that mansion, I mean, it was wonderful when they bought it, but it's a 1929 mansion.
Wow.
And you know from being in the nonprofit world or ever having anything old, it was a cash drain. Just having an old house.
Bach Tower Gardens, for those who are watching out of the area, it's a beautiful
garden over in Lake Wales.
Botanical.
It's not really near Disney. It's south of Disney. So when you drive there, you have an hour and a half drive. From Tampa almost anywhere. From Tampa, from Orlando. You're going to go out into the country and go to this beautiful garden. They had this mansion. Now they could have said to their donors, won't you fund this mansion for us? But they said, and they struggled with this for a number of years, they made it a mission to earn revenue opportunity. When you used to drive into Bach Towers Gardens, they said, X number of dollars for your ticket, please go to the visitor center, enjoy yourself, have a nice day. Instead, they said, would you like to buy the mansion tour? It's $6 extra. Would you like fries with your hamburger? Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
And for that small change, and where they asked for the money, their income for the mansion increased by 300% during the Great Recession.
Wow.
So sometimes, and that's really important because they got more mission out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's, donors.
And they made use
Right.
of the asset that they already had.
They do.
Instead
Yeah.
of saying, and that's also key, you think something may be a drain, and it's not an asset. It's a, what's the opposite of an asset? It's a expense.
Sink.
Sink.
Yeah.
But
Sink hole.
really, when you look at it from a flip side, it becomes a viable asset. It becomes something that, yeah, well, that's cool. And I'm going to recommend this book again, 7 Nonprofit Income Streams. Open the floodgates to sustainability. I love that with Karen. Thank you for being on the show and talking about it. I wanted to kind of switch gears now and ask you, and getting in, you're really very much a heart-centered person as well, but what is your heart's definition of philanthropy? Why do you do what you do? What does that mean to you?
What do I do what I do? Because I really believe that people should have their dreams. And if that means they need money, then I'm going to help them figure out a way to get money. If it means they need to figure out a creative solution that hasn't been thought of before, I'm going to help them do it. And so it's really about having people become what they think they can become and helping them get there.
That's empowerment. You're helping them become empowered to be the person and reach the potential that they want to be, or the organization,
And it's like
in
not
achieving
all
the
in my
mission.
head, it's in their head too, and it's that
And you're pulling it
partnership.
out of them.
It's that partnership. It's like, let's think about this together, because they've been doing it alone a lot of time.
Oh, that's neat. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
Just have really enjoyed having you here. Thank you for your pie chart, which was very impressive. Good to have in all these different areas. And really, this I think is going to open up a lot of people's ideas on who are we, where do we get our funding, and what do we have already on hand that if we just change it just a little bit, we can really focus that and increase it and
Make it a floodgate.
Exactly. Make it a floodgate for sustainability, which is that key S word. The S word we love, sustainability. Thank you for joining us for the Philanthropy Show today. That wraps up another show, but make sure you join us next Monday at 4 Eastern for an all-new show. Have a great week. Be sure to check out our past shows tab. Bye-bye.
Do you have an idea for the Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.